David sat silently in the car, the camera pressed to his eye, zoomed in on the scene unfolding before him. Rebecca, his wife of over 20 years, stepped out of their home and walked toward the sleek silver Mercedes parked in the driveway. The moment she opened the car door, a man appeared from behind the vehicle, flashing a smile that David had never seen before. Rebecca's wedding ring fell to the asphalt as she slid into the car, her eyes avoiding David's view as the man climbed into the driver's seat. The silence in the car was suffocating, but David's pulse raced as he captured every detail through the lens. He had suspected something was wrong for weeks now. The late nights at the office, the sudden trips, the way she would flinch whenever he asked about her day. But this moment was different. This was proof. Rebecca had always claimed that she was working on the Meridian Hospital project, that her late nights were due to meetings and conference calls. But David knew the truth now. He was watching it unfold right before his eyes. She was with another man, and that man was not him. That evening, David took the photographs he'd just taken and uploaded them to his cloud storage, making sure to create multiple backups. He printed out a few copies, one for himself and one for his sister Dana. He needed someone to help him make sense of all of this. At 11 p.m., Rebecca returned home. David tried to act normal, to act like everything was fine, but when she walked into the house, the scent of cologne that wasn't his filled the air. It was faint, but it was unmistakable. His gut twisted. The truth was becoming clearer with each passing minute. Rebecca didn't seem to notice the tension in the room as she went about making herself a cup of tea. She spoke about a meeting at work, about a client who was causing delays, and David nodded along, pretending to care. But his mind was elsewhere. His mind was still on what he had just witnessed, and it felt like his whole world had shifted. "You smell like someone else's cologne," David remarked casually, trying to keep his voice even. Rebecca froze, the tea kettle still in her hands. She didn't answer right away, but after a moment, she set it down and forced a smile. "Oh, that's just the new fragrance from the project team. Someone brought it to the meeting today." David nodded, but didn't believe a word of it. The tension between them was palpable. Every word she spoke felt like a lie. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing with questions. What had happened to their marriage? How long had she been seeing this man? What did this mean for him, for their family? The next day, David sat in front of his computer, staring at the photographs of Rebecca and her lover. The images were clear, the evidence undeniable. But he needed more. He needed to find out how deep the betrayal ran. He needed to know the truth. He reached out to Dana, his younger sister, who had always been there for him. He explained what had happened the night before, how he had seen Rebecca with the other man. Dana listened carefully, offering her support and advice. "We need to be sure, David. If she's been lying to you for months, we need to have proof. Not just photos, financial records, any documents she's been hiding," Dana said firmly. "You can't just confront her without everything in place." David agreed. He knew he couldn't just accuse her. He needed hard evidence, something irrefutable. For the next few days, David took every opportunity to observe Rebecca without her knowing. He watched her every move, paying attention to the small details, the way she spent her money, the trips she made, the time she would leave the house without explanation. Dana helped him track down inconsistencies in Rebecca's stories. David found discrepancies in her work reports, expenses that didn't match up, meetings that didn't exist. The lies were starting to pile up, and David could feel the weight of it all pressing down on him. One night, he found something that made his blood run cold. Rebecca's signature on a document that claimed he had attended a meeting for the Genentech project. The problem? He wasn't there. He had never been there. Rebecca had forged his signature, and it was clear she had been lying about her involvement in several projects. Dana was the one who pointed it out. "This is fraud, David. She's been doing this for months. You need to confront her." David didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was overwhelming. He wasn't just dealing with an affair. He was dealing with a betrayal that spanned across every part of his life. His marriage, his finances, his career. Everything had been tainted by Rebecca's lies. David decided it was time. He couldn't let her get away with it any longer. He had to confront her. but he needed to do it in a way that would make her see the full extent of her actions. He needed her to feel the consequences of her betrayal. That evening, David went to the store and bought flowers and a bottle of wine. He set the table, creating a romantic atmosphere, but the tension in the air was palpable. He wasn't interested in romance. He wasn't interested in apologies. He was interested in the truth. When Rebecca walked in, she smiled at the setup. "What's all this for?" David didn't respond right away. Instead, he took out the folder with the photos, the financial records, and the forged documents. He laid them in front of her, one by one, as she stood frozen in place. "Rebecca, you've been lying to me. Not just about the affair, but about everything." Rebecca's face turned pale. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. David didn't wait for an explanation. He didn't need one. The truth was already in front of him. "I'm not just angry, Rebecca," David said coldly. "I'm done, and I'm going to make sure you face the consequences of what you've done." The following days were a blur. David's world had turned upside down, but now it was time to deal with the fallout. Rebecca tried to apologize, tried to convince him that she hadn't meant for things to get so out of hand. But it was too late for apologies. David filed for divorce. He had already contacted a lawyer and started the process of dividing their assets. He wasn't going to let her take everything from him. He wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. Rebecca, meanwhile, tried to salvage what she could. She called him several times, but David refused to take her calls. He had seen enough. He had given her everything: his trust, his love, his time, and she had thrown it all away for a few moments of selfish pleasure. The final nail in the coffin came when Richard, the man Rebecca had been seeing, tried to contact David. Richard called him several times, leaving messages, but David didn't want to hear it. When Richard finally reached him, he pleaded for David's forgiveness, claiming that Rebecca had been the one to manipulate him into the affair. David listened for a moment before cutting him off. "You and Rebecca are both criminals," he said flatly. "You ruined my life, and now you want me to pity you?" Richard tried to make a deal, promising to testify against Rebecca if David helped him get a better deal in the divorce. But David refused. "You're both guilty. You'll both pay." The divorce was finalized shortly after, and the court's ruling was clear. Rebecca was granted a small portion of the assets, but it was nothing compared to what she had expected. David made sure that everything was divided fairly, and he was satisfied with the outcome. But the real victory came when David's children, who had been caught in the middle of the mess, came to him. They apologized for what had happened, for the lies they had been forced to live with, and David knew that they were finally free from the web of deceit Rebecca had woven. In the end, David didn't feel triumph. He didn't feel relief. What he felt was peace. He had rebuilt his life from the ground up, piece by piece. And this time, it was on his terms.